Welcome to the channel, everybody. I'm Wyo, your seriously damaged host. I've been starting some videos on motorcycle reviews and parts upgrades and all that kind of wonderful jazz, but I decided I really wanted to take this channel in a second direction. I wanted to talk about why I'm riding motorcycles again and why I moved my happy butt all the way out to Wyoming. Because a lot of us, especially first responders, longtime first responders, veterans, we're dealing with a lot of monsters. And these monsters, they got 4 letters that everybody likes to throw around, and everybody likes to say, we're here for you, we support you. And they have the best of intentions, but they either, one, can't understand what we're really going through because they've never been through it themselves, or 2, they're just as messed up as we are and they haven't recovered enough to really get down and talk about it yet. So I'm trying to offer the world something different. Talk about why I moved to Wyoming, why I'm riding motorcycles as my top therapy. But before I get to all that, I feel like I need to build up a rapport, a respect, a trust, a relationship with you guys before you can really believe and connect with anything that I have to say. Because I know before I started getting some help and talking about it, the hardest thing was to really accept that something was wrong. You know, all these monsters in my head built up over so many years that it was hard to look in the mirror and see myself as any different than everybody else that I worked with. I didn't want to talk to anybody because, you know, some dude or chick sitting behind a desk while I lay there on a couch and talk about my hurt feelings, it just isn't the kind of thing that people who are in our culture, in our career, are willing to accept. You know, we're all thinking that Captain Rodriguez has been doing this for 22 years and he's absolutely fine. Lieutenant Jones has been doing this for 14 years and she's completely fine. You know, you don't really see the big picture where Captain Rodriguez only took that desk job because he was just absolutely messed up and couldn't be on the truck or on the engine for even one more shift because he was just absolutely gonna snap. You don't see that he knows his wife has been having an affair for 2 years and waiting until their youngest kid is ready to move out and go off to college before she leaves him because he's been emotionally and physically withdrawn from the marriage for so many years from all the crap that he's been through. You know, you don't see the fact that Lieutenant Jones is in an emotionally and physically abusive marriage because her husband, one of the most respected law enforcement officers in the metro, is also suffering from severe PTSD, and that contributed to his reactions when Lieutenant Jones started withdrawing him physically and emotionally from her marriage. We just go through our 24, 48-hour shift just masking it all, hiding all these emotions, just like we were trained to use self-discipline and hide all these emotions right there on the spot when things are going bad on a call. So let's start with a little story, shall we? So that you know that I'm from your world and you're from mine. Out here in Wyoming, we got what we call the W word. And the W word is a lot like our Q word. The W word is when air is not sitting still. Somebody says the W word and you're holding on to your motorcycle for dear life, almost scraping a peg, using your opposing leg as a sail to try to build some resistance and keep your bike in a straight line. So we'll start it. Holiday, metro area, cold as hell. A lot of bad things are going on in the metro area. All kinds of people are getting hurt from skiing, shootings. Just ridiculous, off the charts for this particular metro area. So much so that both of the trauma ones in the metro go on diversion. They're not accepting anything but a trauma 1. You just happen to be on staff in an ED at a local trauma 2. Due to this diversion, you end up with 5 trauma 2s, 4 COPD exacerbations, 3 CHF exacerbation, 2 stroke alerts, and 1 partridge in a pear tree. Which is a joke where I come from, about a cardiac arrest with return of spontaneous circulation. We always call, oh man, the night was so rough. We had this, and this, and we also had a partridge in a pear tree. And you're just holding on for dear life. And you know somewhere deep down, it's because a nurse was just sitting around in the med closet, going through, grabbing a couple supplies, and she just happened to say out loud to herself when no one else around, it's kind of quiet tonight. So you bust your hump, you're just killing it all night. You just don't stop moving. As all this is starting to wind down, both of your respiratory therapists run outside to smoke a cigarette, you know they do, and then cake themselves respectively in either cologne or perfume. At the same time, all your female staff members are lined up in front of the only working bathroom down there in the ED, while all the male staff members are trying to respond to text messages and tender invites while waiting in line at the vending machine. And then in walks me with a 72-year-old female with a case of abnormal labs straight out of a long-term care facility. Now this is also the easiest call that I've had all night. And I worked in a hospital for a couple years. So even though it's not my normal thing to just roll through some labs and check everything out, one of my buddies that works with me also works PRN over at this hospital as a medic. And you know, we're in a group chat with a bunch of other medics, EMTs, firefighters, cops, because you know, the culture, that's really the only people you hang out with. Because you're so messed up and they're so messed up, you're the only ones that you can really connect with. So he's already hit up the group chat and jokingly said, FML, somebody said Q, they had to have, I'm over this. So knowing I'm rolling to that hospital with this inter-facility transport, I roll through the labs and I'm like, okay, we got this, and this. Okay, now I see why she ain't quite normal. She's got a UTI and she's got some acute renal failure. So as I roll in, we toss the patient on the ED bed. I'm giving my report, and I know what kind of hell that the staff has been through all night, so I'm trying to save Doctor Better Than Me 30 seconds to a minute of her time. And at the end, I say lab suggests UTI and acute renal failure, with no documented history of renal failure whatsoever. And Dr. Better Than Me decides to look at me with this condescending, stay in your lane look and tone of voice, and says to me, "Oh, this isn't probable, this isn't possible, this is acute renal failure. Stay in your lane." Okay, thanks doc, appreciate that. But since I don't have the same piece of paper on my wall that you do, I have to use liability releasing terms like possible, probable, and suspected. Sorry I tried to save you a few seconds of your time when you've been dealing with so much hell out all night. So, walking away, jumping back in the bus, I think to myself, that doc has absolutely no idea that when I rolled in here with a 72-year-old female with some abnormal labs, it's going to be perfectly fine in 48 hours. That I had just left Mr. and Mrs. Jones' house for the 4th time this year. But this time, I had to look Mr. Jones in the face and tell him, we couldn't do it, brother. We just couldn't bring her back this time. I hope that you get some help. Dig in my pocket, grab a card for some local counseling and therapy, AA, like there's just this big long card of everything, rehab, all kinds of phone numbers, email addresses that we would give to addicts. And you know, it's just, I hope this is that wake-up call for you, man. You just lost everything. You know, Child and Family Services is probably gonna be here soon to pick up her 2 kids that you love like your own, and God only knows what's gonna happen from here. So now that we got through that, now that you can see that I'm from your world a little bit, we can talk about these monsters just a hair. And we could talk about how doing my 20-minute commute to and from work is the least stressful commute in probably all of America. I mean, you see other guys doing their moto vlogs, and man, my 20-minute ride to work sucks. Everybody out on the road is either trying to kill me or just doesn't see me. And I'm all over here like, well, there's one vehicle way back there in my rear view mirror. Because I live in Wyoming. And to put that in perspective for you, we got about 500,000 people in the entire state. That's about the population of Tampa and St. Petersburg put together, spread over almost as many square miles as the entire state of Florida. And for me, this is where it's at. I got a good job where I have about 4 conversations per 12-hour shift, just operating some heavy equipment in my own little world. Every now and then somebody will also ask me a question, you know, some tips or tricks that I picked up at, you know, my younger years of operating heavy equipment before I decided to subject myself to the monsters. So I'm hoping that this whole video series, we're slowly gonna talk through some stuff. We're gonna joke around, we're gonna laugh, we're gonna find some things in common. If you got questions or comments, you'll throw them out. If you start getting comfortable to talk to me over time, that you'll hit me up on Instagram, Wyomoto13, and somebody who's actually been to the puppet show, who's seen the strings dangling, is willing to talk to you. But also remember that we live in a pretty screwed up world these days, where everybody wants to sue or report you and say, oh, he's talking about stuff and he's not a licensed healthcare professional, blah blah blah. Look, I'm not going to recommend that you do anything. I'm going to tell you what works for me. And if you choose to take some of that and apply it to your own life, make sure that you speak to your healthcare professional first. Side effects may include road rash, hypothermia if you live somewhere like I do, a couple broken bones, up to and including death in very rare circumstances. I don't know. That wasn't the best liability joke I could have probably came up with, but I tried hard. So now that my commute is over and I've shared everything that I'm ready to share and go through on the first adventure together, I'm gonna take off. And I'm gonna wish you guys the best and hope that over the course of time I can really have a positive impact on some few people, because I know that talking through all this is probably gonna help me too. See you guys on the next one.